everybody, welcome back to Feedback Loop for episode 101. I'm Joey,
And I'm Jeremy.
and I just mentioned that it was episode 101 because I figured I'd point out that we're in a new century of Feedback Loop now.
A new century.
Yeah,
I feel like, is it technically a century?
I don't.
Because a century is specifically for time, right? Not for like count. You don't say you have a century. You say you have a dollar, right? When you're talking about currency.
We're in a new dollar of
We're in a new
Feedback Loop.
dollar of Feedback Loop this week, boys.
That's happening.
Shit. Let's get right into it. What did you listen to?
Dude, okay.
In the past fortnight, over the past fortnight.
In the past fortnight, like, I have been all over the fucking place with, like,
I feel that.
just my mental well-being, and I feel like it's affected my music habits. But one album that I've been listening to a lot is an album that I've heard over and over. It's called Telephone. It's by The Districts. Came out in 2012. And it's an album that Alyssa actually showed me like a long time ago. Like, I don't know, like 8 years ago probably. Back around the time that we had first met-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an album that I always... it's a fall album to me. Like how we always talk about like the spring album, summer album, winter, like whatever. It's typically a fall album, but I don't know if it's been the weather lately or just how I've been feeling. But I've been really like super into it. And it's just an album that's really nice to sing along to. There's a lot of like really emotional songs where he's like yelling and stuff.
It's not yelling like harsh vocals or just like belting.
Belting, they're slightly harsh, but they're like they're more of a rock band. They're not like a metal band. Like I would consider it closer to like an indie rock type thing. But I don't know. Yeah, I've been super into it lately, and it's been what I've been listening to if I have to drive anywhere.
Yeah, it has been, going back to what you're saying, very fall-like, I think, weather-wise around here, which is strange because, I mean, it's spring. Which, I mean, you could argue that, like, there's an overlap between spring and fall where, like, it's between warm and cold, but it feels more fall-like, I think, because we've had warmer days recently, and then it's kind of gotten back to the colder, like, aspects of that, so I can definitely feel the fall vibes. I haven't necessarily been listening to fall music. My fortnight has been weird, and that like we recorded the last episode the day before I left for St. Louis, and I spent 5 days, 5 nights, 6 days, I don't know, about a week in St. Louis. And while I was there, I was doing things, and I wasn't necessarily listening to a lot. However, on my drive there, I kind of just like went through some backlog albums. I think last episode I mentioned that my only real quote-unquote plan, I guess, would be to catch up on some backlog albums. So I listened to like Halsey's new album, which was produced by like Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross from Nine Inch Nails. That was a weird album. It's kind of scattered. It didn't really have a lot of like a cohesive feeling. Like each track was kind of like all over the place from the last one. I listened to a band called Beach House. They have an album called Depression Cherry that I listened to that had been on my backlog for a while. I listened to Post Malone for the first time.
Which album?
I listened to Hollywood's Bleeding.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't know if it's his newest one now. I think he has a new one upcoming, maybe.
Okay.
I think it was his last studio release.
Yeah.
As a thing, I wasn't super into it. I wasn't super out of it. I was just kind of like, okay. It was a thing. It wasn't the vibes. I listened to Power Trip. I think after the episode last fortnight, we were talking about thrash metal.
Yeah.
I think in general, and I'd mentioned that there was a modern band that I wanted to check out that I just never got around to. So I did. I listened to Power Trip's album Nightmare Logic. That rips. It's fantastic.
Hell yeah.
It was a lot of fun. And then when I was in St. Louis, because I drove up on Wednesday, and then that Friday there were a couple big album releases. Well, quote unquote big for me, big artists that I enjoy listening to released albums. The Regrets released a new album that was called Further Joy. I'm disappointed as hell in that album, just because it's not a bad album, I don't think, but it's so much more poppy than I was anticipating. There's not a lot of rock to it, which their last two albums kind of had more of that kind of surf rock stuff. Banks released a new album that was it's called Serpentina, that I didn't really vibe with. I haven't listened to it a whole lot. I want to kind of go back to that at some point. But Jack White, this is the big one for me over the past fortnight. Jack White released a new album called Fear of the Dawn, and it is phenomenal.
Oh
I really,
shit.
really enjoy
Okay.
it. I mean, I'm a fan of Jack White to begin with, but like, God, it's so good. It sticks out even among his collection because like this is debatably like a new direction for him. I think it's still rock, but it's much more digital. I guess he's a very analog person in
Yeah.
general, and I watched he did an interview with Zane Lowe. Is that his name for BBC One? I think it's Zane Lowe, um, where he was talking about just like how different this album is for him from a production standpoint because he's like previously been so analog with things. He like his old music, quote unquote, like with the White Stripes, he doesn't seek out a lot of like digital effects. There's not a lot of like mixing and mastering that goes on with a lot of the stuff. He just kind of plays it raw and lets it play out. But this album, he's kind of changed, and he's doing a lot of that digital manipulation and working in on mastering and mixing and all sorts of stuff. The album features Q-Tip as well
What?
from Tribe
From
Called
Tribe Called
Quest.
Quest? Oh
Yeah,
my god.
and that song's a fucking jam. Like that whole album is just so good, so good, and it's distinct from his other stuff, and that's been on repeat pretty much since it came out. I actually bought the vinyl in St. Louis because I went to like a record store there, and I was like, hey, I want to check that album out, and then I did, and I have no regrets for it. That's been on constant play
Well,
for
shit,
me.
yeah. Jack White has his own vinyl pressing
He
company or
does.
something too, doesn't he?
He has a record store slash venue slash studio in Nashville, and he has one in Detroit as well called Third Man Records, where you can like they set a record in Nashville apparently that was like the fastest or the soonest. I don't know how to phrase it. Basically, the shortest amount of time between performing a song and selling a vinyl pressing of it
Oh,
in
that's fucking
Nashville. They did it in
sick.
like 4 hours or something. Just like they played a song at the place. They got like they recorded the master, I guess, there because they have like a vinyl lathe and stuff. And then they took it, they rushed it with like a police escort or something to like some other company to get it like minted, and then they had copies ready within like 4 hours of the performance for
Oh
this
my
live like
god.
single essentially, which
That's
is
so
really cool.
cool. That's so fucking cool.
He's a cool dude. I
Yeah.
like him, and his new album is fucking great. Everyone go check it out. It's called Fear of the Dawn. Not a
Fear of the
sponsor.
Dawn. Well, yeah, Jack White, if you're out there listening, sponsor us, please.
Sponsor us, please. We'll talk good about you all day long, baby.
As long as you keep making good music. And speaking of good music, it actually came from not I guess not an entirely unexpected place, but my brother recommended an album to me,
Okay.
and he's been a little bit about his journey recently. He's whenever like lockdown started, he in 2020 he started picking up the guitar, started playing it and everything, and he's kind of, I don't know, progressed, and he's at the point now where he's starting to listen to and learn some more like Midwest emo math rock, that type of thing it's really getting big right now. He's on the cusp of moving to, I think, like folk type styling, finger style of guitar, but
Mm-hmm.
for a while he was really into that math rock Midwest emo sound. And he
Tell me
recommend
you're about to drop some Midwest emo Rex here.
dude, I'm about to drop one, and it's kind of Midwest emo, math rock, but it's also got like some harder stuff in it too, like what people back in 2008 would have considered screamo, but now we
Yeah,
know that it's not all one blend. It's a little bit,
like Hawthorne Heights kind of stuff, maybe.
yeah, but this is like it's the album's called Somewhere City by Origami Angels, and dude, it was just exactly what I needed when he recommended it. And I listened to it just all the way through. It's only like a 30-minute album, so it's not like this huge thing, but just from start to finish, it was it kept me engaged the whole way through. Like, it does a great job of blending the harder stuff with the more like technical bright sounds that you get with the guitar work on like a math rock style
Yeah.
thing. Very, very high, very like bright and sparkly almost, um, with these
Is
really
this
big
out of
chugs.
character necessarily for your brother? I don't really know him well enough to know his musical tastes previously, but he didn't seem to me to be into that kind of music at the time that I knew him.
He wasn't when you knew him, and up until recently, up until maybe about a year, he went through a thing. Like, he, of course, when he was in high school, did like started liking like the stuff that was on the radio, like the rap, hip hop, pop
Yep.
type stuff, and kind of got a little bit harder into that, like got away from the radio stuff into more like the deep cuts whenever he was kind of like in college. Then after college, he started rooming with, he's actually, I think, either was roommates or his roommate is like a friend of the drummer for a band called Knocked Loose, who has played it, like he's played it louder than life and
I've heard
everything.
of that
Like,
band.
they're a local band, and so he got into like the kind of hardcore post punk scene for a bit, and then now he's kind of come back around to this like Midwest emo stuff, and then now he's moving into like folk music. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
been a crazy ride, because I gave him my old Washburn guitar that I started learning how to play guitar on, and my Line 6 amp that came with like a shit ton of like pre-built-in
Yeah.
effects. And it's like, I think he started picking that up, and it's just been really cool to see the trajectory that he's been on, and for him to end up giving me a rec that whenever I'm like, just I feel like I'm losing my fucking mind for the past like 2 weeks. I've felt like so disconnected from reality. It was just a good rec, and it was a nice surprise.
Hell yeah. I think I have a rec for you as well. And I don't know if this necessarily. I mean, if I think this is a good like exit album from that kind of funk, that this groove that you've been in. Maybe I listened to. I think the band's called Ocean View. Their album's called Easy Life. Um, I listened to over the Fortnight as well, and just it's vibey. It's got some good vibes. So I think that it's not like super upbeat and poppy necessarily. I guess it is kind of poppy, but like it's not like happy poppy in that aspect. So I think it might be a good way to exit the sad boy times, or the weird boy times, I guess, that you're having. I kind of want to check them out again too. I listened to a whole lot of fucking albums over the past 2 weeks, and it just like it was. I listened to a bunch of albums one time, and so a lot of it didn't really stick.
Yeah,
Other than, of course, that Jack White album. So most of my, I don't want to say most of, I would like to in the next fortnight revisit some of the albums that I kind of glossed over, I guess, in the past 2 weeks.
yeah, it's really easy to do that whenever, and I feel like that's when you get a weird picture of an album. Like, you listen to it once, and it can hit so well, but kind of what comes with really liking an album is whether it has staying power with you. Which, I
Yeah,
mean, there's definitely something to be said about the experience of just listening to an album once and just getting super into it and loving it in that moment, and that's a great experience. But then it's always sobering to come back to it later and be like, oh. It's like
yeah,
whenever you write a song and you're super into it, and then you come back to it a week later and you're like, that fucking sucks. Like, why did I think that sounded good?
yeah. I've definitely been there. I've definitely had both albums and my own original music that just like hit good in the moment, and then you're out of that moment, and it no longer applies to you, I guess, and it doesn't
Yeah.
feel right outside of the context, I guess. Which, I mean, maybe you could argue that it could again feel right if you were back in that moment, or if you were in a similar moment in the future, kind of a thing that you could go back to it. I don't know if there's a whole lot of albums specifically that stand out to me as one and done albums that I was like super into one time and then never again. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm kind of a hoarder in that aspect, that like, and I think it's kind of interesting in that like maybe that's why I flock to new music is because there's always new music coming out, whereas you tend to like dig deeper into like the past of stuff. I'm just like, oh, there's so much new shit, and I don't want to miss out on it, and I'm just
Yeah.
grabbing it and throwing it into my backpack or something, and just like never letting go of it. And this is part of me now, right? This Jack White album, even if I'm not like rocking it every day, in a year from now, it's still like a part of me, I
Yeah.
guess.
Which is true because you listened to it and it had this much of an impact on you, and now it's going to shape who you are going forward.
I'm gonna be the next Jack White.
Dude, wouldn't that be fucking sick? I guess I'm gonna end, like, not end off because this isn't where my notes end, but end off my fucking sad boy party pants over here, whatever I'm doing.
Sad Boy Party Pants. That's a good album name.
Or a band name or
Or a
I don't
band
know,
name.
something. We got to
Original
write that
band.
down.
It's happening.
I listen to more of my typical style of music at this point in my life is kind of that slow core. It has like the 90s feel where
You
it's
mean it
really
wasn't just Pile?
not just Pile. I listened to it like this band. They were called Sneeze, and the album was called "I'm Going to Kill Myself," and it's a new discovery that I actually ended up liking. And the reason it stood out to me is because in this style of music, which this album came out in 2014, I believe, so it's the new wave of it, not the
Right.
original wave of it. But a lot of this music can end up sounding samey, which I've discovered when trying to find good artists in this style, where it's like, I don't, there's a lot of bands that you just get this loud in your face wash of sound that's really fuzzy, and the vocals are kind of mixed down in it so you can't really hear them, and they're kind of monotone, and it's like it all ends up sounding like they're trying to be like the Butthole Surfers or something.
Yeah.
And uh which I like the Butthole Surfers, but I like bands that aren't them too. So
Yeah.
other bands
You don't want
don't.
to listen to only the Butthole Surfers for the rest
Yeah,
of your life.
yeah. And these guys had like a clarity that I liked, which like while the fuzziness of the sound is definitely something that defines their style of music, they keep it tighter than other bands, and they can kind of like paint a better picture in my head with their music because of it. It's like there's this band that I listened to a while ago called the band is Hum, and the album was You'd Prefer an Astronaut. And I don't know, it was just like a breath of fresh air whenever I found it, where I was just like, oh, I feel like I've just been wading through this sea of mediocrity for so long. And now I found something that I like. But yeah, so Sneeze, they're a cool band that I found.
Is it kind of like drony, I guess, in that aspect, or is it just kind of like Brit rock kind of fuzz stuff?
It's actually closer to grunge with how I'd consider their sound, but they still have that slow core, really big wall. Not
Gotcha.
quite shoegaze, but like it's that sound that you correlate with like slow rock from the 90s or something.
Interesting. Interesting. Maybe I'll take a chance on. Maybe I'll take a milky chance on them because in the next fortnight, I just saw this today. I added it to my list. This was my segue. I'm segueing into the next section
Oh my
as
god.
we wrap things up in the next fortnight. Milky Chance released an acoustic version of Sad Necessary, either today, recently, or whatever. So I made note of that. I kind of want to check that out because Sad Necessary is kind of a fun album, and Milky Chance is pretty cool. So I'd like to dip into their acoustic album or
Dude,
acoustic re-release. I guess it sounds like a good time.
that's sick. Milky Chances. Well, Sad Necessary at least. I guess I can't say Milky Chance was awesome because I've only listened to like two of their
They're
albums.
solid. They're solid all around. I think.
Well, there we go. Maybe I'll listen to it too because I really liked Sad Necessary. Stuff that I'm gonna be working on. This this guy on YouTube called Donnie Benet got recommended to me, and it's just it kind of caught my eye because it had like the video at the time had like 5,000 views, and it was just like a dude who looked like he was maybe in his mid to late 30s with like the mustache,
The mustache.
like he looks like he's going for the 80s vibe. He has like the long mullet type hair, and he just I don't he just looked like kind of an out of place 80s guy in the current era. which I know that's kind of becoming the style again.
Yeah,
But
unfortunately.
yeah, nah, dude, I love it. I want that to be my style. But uh, it was just a promotional video for his new album called Le Piano, and I went and listened to it, and shit, dude, it's so good. Like
Is it?
it's like
What genre is it?
it's like a new disco almost, but it's like mostly instrumental, and it kind of gave me a vibe that like older Daft Punk gives me, but without the
Mm,
electronic elements. Like
fascinating.
it's yeah, like I didn't know necessarily how to describe it. It's just a really good feel, and it's something great to kind of just like groove and get lost in. So I'm going to listen to his other stuff because that was the only thing I listened to, and that's his album. It came out like last month or something. It came out in 2022. Um,
Oh
but
yeah,
yeah, I'm going to
I like
listen.
it.
I'm also listening to more of Yellow Magic Orchestra because they're good
I've
pioneers of
not heard of
electronic
them.
music. Well, go listen to them.
Maybe I will. On my short list, there's I took an Uber in St. Louis while I was there, just because I'd driven there on Wednesday and I didn't feel like driving to a hockey game and dealing with like the traffic afterwards and stuff. So I took an Uber to meet my friends in St. Louis, and the Uber driver was listening to some radio mix, I guess. I don't know what it was specifically, but there was a song that was playing that stood out to me. I'm like, I like the sound of this, and this isn't my typical sound because it was kind of like an R&B, kind of a soul thing, which I like a lot of soul music, I guess, but I don't like a lot of R&B, and this felt more R&B than what I typically do. So I was like listening to the song, and I was like, I'm not going to ask this Uber driver what song this is because I don't want to assume that she knows it. And I'm just like, I'm just gonna Google the lyrics, and like it panned out for me. And the song was "Gangster of Love" by an artist named Ayana Lee, which I've not heard of, but I'm kind of branch out a little bit and check her album out and hopefully find some R&B that I like. I also have the band The Warning on my list, which is like a female rock band who I somehow missed when they happen because they sound like they're right up my alley and something that I would enjoy. So I think they have a new album coming out. Wet Leg is the name of a British duo
No
uh,
fucking way.
band. They just released an album.
They did.
I think their first album, but they popped up on my YouTube last week or sometime. I'm like, I want to check them out. So they're on my list. Skylar Grey also has a new album coming out next week. So I'm ready to vibe to that. And then there's one that I saw today just before the podcast that I was struck by the album art, and it's for a band, I guess a band. And I know I've seen this name before. It's Carol's Daughter is the name of the group, the band, the artist. I don't know, but the album title is "Please Put Me in a Medically Induced Coma." So I think that might be my fun wild card pick this week.
Nice. Hell yeah, dude. I can't. I mean, I know the algorithm controls every piece of content that people consume, but Alyssa literally showed me Wet Leg
Yeah,
like 5 days ago, and I've
yeah,
been listening to them since then. It was she showed me your mom,
yeah.
whatever, fucking British people, and 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 Chaise Long. Like I watched the
Yeah, I
music
don't
video for
remember
both of
what
them.
which music video I saw. It was a music video pick for me. That, like YouTube's like, hey, new music video from this band you've never heard of. And I'm like, okay, why
Was
not?
it the one where they were like cashiers or something? And
I did see that one. That's your mom, right?
yeah,
I
and
think
then
I saw another one prior to that
were they wearing
where
like
they
sun
were out. There
hats?
was like outside business happening where they were just
Oh,
like
okay,
dancing in a field or some shit.
okay.
But that was the first one I saw. But yeah, kind of curious to see how that goes because I like it's kind of like indie rock ish,
Yeah.
and it's two sisters I think, and it was kind of giving me similar like vibes to Haim for like their first couple albums, which I'm a big fan of Haim. So
Well,
that's where that one came through for me.
hell yeah,
Also, I
man.
do want to check out Somewhere City by Origami Angels now that you've passed the recommendation on to me.
I'm gonna
That
go
sounds
ahead
like
and
a good time.
say I'm just gonna give it. I shouldn't give a disclaimer, but
You
this
gonna
was something that
dig?
I actually meant to talk about whenever I originally brought it up. Is like how whenever it was happening, I was a teenager. Whenever all of that like emo stuff was first
Yeah,
coming around, I was a teenager, and I didn't care that the lyrics were cheesy and that there was
sure.
cheesy like now I feel like I got away from that and I got like too jaded and too cynical to really appreciate it. But there's like some positive messages and shit in Origami Angels where it's like, I feel like 2 or 3 years ago I would have heard it and been like, fuck you for being positive. And now I'm trying to I'm trying to have the thought of like, this is what I needed to hear at the time. So like, I need to just accept it, or at least accept that people are singing these words to other people that need to hear them, and not be so cynical about it and just be like, I'm going to accept that there's people sending out positive messages in their music. I like the music. I'm not just going to hate positivity for the sake of hating positivity, or hate super negativity, or like, I'm going to experience them as emotions as I know that I have once felt them. I'm going to try not to be so cynical. And I feel like I hit, like, I don't know.
You're implying that you have not felt a positive feeling in a very long time. It's what I'm gathering from this, is that you're like, I used to be into positivity. That time has passed, so now I'm just going to pretend that I'm younger and enjoy life again, just to allow this music to wash over me the right way. That's what I'm getting out of this.
I mean, who has time to be positive about it?
I mean, we've talked about it on the podcast before, I think, during various albums. I think that neither one of us typically tend to enjoy quote unquote happy music, right? We don't like, it doesn't resonate as much, and it's easier to feel fake, I guess, with happy music, and that's why we both kind of tend to prefer sad music, because it's harder to evoke that kind of emotion genuinely.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a shit ton of like breakup songs that are quote unquote sad songs, but we're not talking about that shit. Yeah. But yeah, I also feel similarly that like I feel like there is that kind of exception in positive music as well. Because I mean, I mentioned the Necrogoblicon album last episode, right? And it has some pretty positive vibes on it overall, and I fuck with it. And it just, I think it's all about, obviously, like where you're at and mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever, at the time that it hits you. But like, it's the way it comes across, the way that they express it, I suppose. It doesn't sound as cheesy as like a lot of like generic bland pop songs are in that happy way. So I think there's some merit to like accepting some of this Origami Angels positivity, quote unquote, with a disguise on it, as long as it feels right. So I don't think you need to necessarily qualify it as happy or sad music necessarily to rationalize why you enjoy it. Just like if it comes across as genuine and you're enjoying it, then that's that.
Hell yeah. Genuine. That's what matters.
Genuine Pony.
That was him. I was about to say something with Pony, and then you said it, and I was like, yep, that's good enough.
Yeah, it's a fucking White Pony, Deftones. We're going all over the place. I don't know. We're done here.
Yeah.
We have nothing more to say. So you guys let us know what you listened to over the past fortnight. We're gonna just use Fortnight.
Yeah.
I've set my mind on it. Even if you hate it, even if I hate it.
SEO, we're gonna put Fortnite in this tags.
Put Fortnite in every fucking episode somehow. But yeah, let us know what you think of Jack White's album. Let us know if you've been experiencing Sad Boy Party Pants times.
Hell yeah.
If you've listened to Origami Angels, give us some more Rex. We like Rex. So we'll check it out at least once. It might end up like a road trip album for me, where I just listen to it once and then never again. But I'll check it out. I'm down to try. There's always more music.
I'll maybe check it out. I don't know. I honestly can't fucking say what I will or won't do.
Who knows, man? These are desperate times. See you guys next fortnight. Stay in our feedback loop.
Bye.
Hell yeah.